Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Picard Season 3 Episode 7 Dominion. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Picard, so I'll have to start with a spoiler warning for Picard up to Season 3 Episode 7. If you have not seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, yeah, it's another episode of Picard, and I don't know, like, there's some things about Picard Season 3 that I do like. I do want to make that clear, because I know that I come off as more negative, especially as compared to the other reviewers, but yeah, there's also some things that bother me. Now, this latest episode is no different. There's things that I liked, and there's things that bother me. So, let's start with the cameo by Tuvok, because let me firmly put that in the things I like category. Now, last week I did harp on them doing 2 minutes shameless fan service and member berries, particularly all the cameos from all the different ships, which I still feel was nothing but shameless member berries. I don't feel it served any storytelling purpose whatsoever. But in that video, I talked about there is, callbacks and, callbacks and bringing things back from previous shows that actually do work. Those that actually do serve a purpose other than just to say, oh, remember this? Well, I would put Tuvok in that second category. I think this made so much sense for the story. It fits so well into the story that I think it enhanced the show by seeing Tim Ross. Again, of course, as we find out, it's not actually Tuvok, which I think was a nice little twist on it, and I think it was brilliant, and I think it's better that we do have this and better than we don't, because they could have just made up a character and had Picard or someone else try to contact them and be like, ooh, they're just a changeling. But it makes more sense to, like, why introduce a new character when you have all these existing ones you could just bring back? And so it's a perfect opportunity to bring back a legacy character, but in a way that fits the story and makes absolute sense. And so in that case, I would put this Tuvok appearance totally separate from all the ship porn we got in the previous episode, and from like Moriarty, which seemed to not really serve that big of a purpose. I mean, Moriarty I was actually more okay with, because it did kind of make sense that Data's mind would bring up imagery that Riker would be familiar with, but it did seem like a letdown. If anything, I was more disappointed about the trailer, teasing him, and it turned out to be nothing. But Tuvok, on the other hand, I think is fits the story perfectly, and so I really appreciated this cameo. Now, when Seven was testing him to see if he was a changeling, she mentioned, all the times we played Calto. And Tuvok was like, yes, I recall that you beat me on multiple occasions or something like that. And I was like, he's a changeling. They never played Calto. But then Seven's like, okay, we're all good. That's the real Tuvok. I'm like, wait a second. I don't remember 7 of 9 actually playing Calto against Tuvok. Tuvok used to play Calto against Harry Kim and kick his ass all the time. And I remember in that crappy, terrible finale, Tuvok played Calto against Ichab and lost. And he was like disturbed. He was like, oh my god, how could I possibly lose? This is unheard of. So the fact of 709 saying, I used to kick your ass in Calto all the time, I was like, but that's not true. Like, that should have been a tell that he was a changeling. The fact that he said that, but apparently not. But anyway, that's, nitpicking, nerdy shit there. But, they did actually, the reveal that he was actually a changeling when she mentioned her cortical node being removed, which happened in season 7 of Voyager, and he didn't catch that. And this whole thing about the Vulcan protests of the Vulcan Kolinar that happened on this planet, so no Vulcan would want to go there. I want to hear more about these. Why would people protest Kolinar? That's interesting. But anyway, but yeah, and so they revealed that it was a changeling, and then he starts acting all sinister, and turns into Riker a bit and saying, "I'm dead. You're all dead." Like, that was foreboding. Like, this was good. I really liked this scene a lot. I thought it really, really worked. Now, then we get in the Jack Crusher thing, and at this stage, like, we're up at the episode 7, and they've been teasing that there's something up with him for a while now, and they threw us this bone about the Irumodic syndrome, but I talked about how that does not add up. Like, Irumodic syndrome did not cause Picard to hallucinate and read people's minds and shit. And so, it did make me wonder if they were just, playing fast and loose with canon. But in this episode, they imply that the Irumodic syndrome is not that it's something else that he inherited from Picard. And so, okay, that's interesting. But what is it? I just watched this review from Steve Shives, who reviewed this episode Conspiracy from TNG and compared it to Picard Season 3. And it's like, well, how they crammed basically the entire storyline that this season is doing, they crammed into one episode and saying how he preferred that. Which I actually disagree. I think that was one of the things that I didn't like about that episode, Conspiracy. Why it's only like a moderately good episode, not a great episode, is because it did feel condensed and it all happened too fast, and so I didn't take it as seriously because they crammed through it and went through it super fast in one episode. But one thing he said I will totally agree with is that he said at least that episode back then they knew how to get to the fucking point. Which is the problem with this Jack Crusher storyline, is that they're stretching it out way too far. And it is making me feel, the more deeper I get into the season, is that this season could have been condensed into 5 or 6 episodes, which has been classically been a problem with modern Trek. And their serialized storytelling. Particularly, that was a problem with Discovery Season 4, which is a good season. It was my favorite season of Discovery. But it would have been way better had they done it in like 6 or 7 episodes instead of 13. They definitely felt drawn out and stretched out. And I'm definitely thinking that's what this season is. And looking back on this season so far, I feel like it is a story that could have been told a lot more condensed, a lot cleaner in like 4 or 5 episodes, but is being stretched out through the use of shameless fan service. And just stretching this and just stretching the story like, they were in that stupid nebula for so long. But now they're out of the nebula, but they're still not getting to the fucking point. And so I hope that the final 3 episodes pick up the pace. But even so, there is a chance I will say this is a really good quality season of Picard, just like I say that with Discovery Season 4. But it's not going to be a masterpiece like I hear many holding it up to be, because it's got pacing issues that they cannot overcome in 3 episodes. Sorry. But I'm still really engaged and interested in the story and to see where it's going. It. I don't know how I feel about the Jack Crusher and God, what's her name? Sydney LaForge, Crash LaForge. I don't know how I feel about their romance. That's kind of. I'm not completely opposed, but I'm not completely on board either. So I'll leave it at that. The whole thing with him being able to read her mind and read her thoughts, like, again, this is what's the deal? I need to know what's going on with this. What is the deal? Now, if this reveal of what's going on with Jack Crusher could, in retrospect, justify, like, once they reveal what it is, I could be like, oh, well, that's why they didn't reveal it too early. They couldn't reveal this too early. They needed to hold on to it longer because that wouldn't have worked. So, if that's the case, then maybe I'll change my mind, but I don't know. I kind of doubt it at the moment. I just wish they would get on with it. And then what's the deal with Picard, too, them stealing Picard's dead body? When Picard and Crusher were coming up with their theories of, they're just trying to reconstruct a perfect version of Picard to infiltrate the what is the celebration. I can't remember what kind of day it is, but I always think it's silly, the founding day or whatever it is. Anyway, that seems like a stupid theory, and I hope that is simply misdirection. Because if that's all the Changeling's big plan is, then not a good plan. And I hope they come up with something better than simply doing that. Yeah. And so I think it is misdirect, to be fair, and I think that's why they're bringing this up. But I want to know, you're stretching this out for too long. You need to get to the fucking point by now. And if it is something different, and it's better be good, because that seems like why would they need Jean-Luc's actual dead body? And why do they still want Jack Crusher? See, that's why I don't buy this theory that they need Jack Crusher's DNA to make this imposter work, because they seem so desperate. These changelings seem so desperate to get Jack Crusher. Like, the whole entire plan hinges on it, and so it seems like it has to be something more important than that. And of course, none of that would explain why he could fucking read people's minds. So why the changelings want him has to be tied into that. So it's got to be something bigger, but just tell us already, for fuck's sake. Anyway, so I do appreciate Vadic a bit more with this episode. I talked about last week how I wasn't really on board with Vadic as a villain, as a character. She came off as mustache twirly, two-dimensional. Reminded me a lot of Nero from 2009, as being, Nero is the worst villain who's ever been in the Star Trek franchise. If you even consider those J.J. Abrams abominations the Star Trek franchise, but officially it is. So, I've changed my mind about her this week. I wouldn't say she's a great villain. I wouldn't say, oh my god, this is one of the best villains ever. She's so fleshed out. She makes sense. I would just say that I no longer have an issue with her. I think, so they got into her backstory. They showed that she was, being tortured on, and the change that we've seen in the changelings where they could exactly mimic organs in human bodies was actually brought up by experimentation that Starfleet was doing on her, and she experienced it firsthand, and the torture, and she's actually emulating the appearance of her own torturer, which is pretty dark. And so all of this, I think, fleshes out the character enough to a point where I no longer think she's the two-dimensional mustache twirly villain. As I said, I don't think she's the best villain ever. She's no Gold Dukat. I don't think, wow, this character's so three-dimensional. I just no longer think she's two-dimensional. I'm okay with her now. is what I'm saying. So I don't have an issue with her anymore, but I still don't think she's a great villain, as some other people are saying. I'm still not impressed with the cigar chomping, scenery chewing appearance, demeanor. I'm still not on board with that, but it's more acceptable to me now. It is acceptable now. But anyway, there's this whole thing about Section 31 that's really gnawing at me, because in the previous episode, I think there might have been 2 previous episodes, the one where Riker got captured, I think that was the previous episode. Yeah, it was. So when they were on Daystrom Station, they were talking about Section 31, and Riker specifically said that Section 31 was a division of Starfleet intelligence, which it is fucking not. It is an independent agency that works outside of the field of... Now, every once in a while it has contact and works in conjunction with Starfleet, such as when Sloan worked with Admiral Ross, but... it is a completely autonomous. That is something they made totally clear in Deep Space Nine. Now, modern Trek has eschewed this a lot, particularly with Discovery, where Discovery did present it as an agency of Starfleet that even had their own fucking black badges. And that bothered me, but I was able to sort of come up with this headcanon that, maybe they're saying they're, still wrong, because we saw in Enterprise they were still autonomous, but let's just say that maybe for a brief moment in history in the 23rd century they were in fact part of Starfleet intelligence, but then something like the thing with Discovery and Control taking over Section 31 trying to kill everyone, as when Starfleet excised it from their agency, and so that's when they became completely autonomous, working outside of Starfleet. However, my headcanon's now destroyed, because this is the 25th century and they're saying that they're part of Starfleet intelligence, which they are fucking not. Now, you might think this is nitpicking here and just being pedantic, but it actually becomes a very important point, because when they were talking about the events of the Dominion War and what happened when Starfleet created a virus for the changelings to wipe them out, to commit genocide, it was Section 31 that did it. So whether or not you consider Section 31 a part of Starfleet or completely autonomous but working in the same interests makes a huge fucking difference, because they're the ones that created the virus. And so they're presenting it as Section 31 was a part of Starfleet intelligence, therefore it was Starfleet that created the virus that killed, or that tried to commit genocide on changelings. And that's how Picard and Crusher are stating it constantly. Well, Starfleet tried to do it, and that's what Vadic said. Starfleet tried to wipe us out. Now, of course, Vadic would have that viewpoint regardless, because she wouldn't find the convenient separation from Section 31 and Starfleet. She would still blame Starfleet. So that I get. But it's the Crusher and Picard seem to go along with this and say, oh yes, it was Starfleet that did it. Which is not the scenario that was presented in Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine made it very clear that Starfleet had nothing to do with it and that they were distancing themselves from it. But, to be fair, they were doing nothing to stop Section 31. It was Bashir, a lone Starfleet officer who acted alone, who infiltrated Section 31 and found the cure for it. Now, here's the thing. In this episode, Picard brings up that to Vadic that that Starfleet gave the changelings a cure, But Vatic points out that one of their own people had to steal the cure, that even Starfleet had the opportunity to give the changelings the cure, but decided not to, and that is true. I watched another reviewer saying, oh, that's not necessarily true because we saw that Bashir got the cure. No, it is true because after Bashir got the cure and cured Odo, Odo went to Sisko and said, let me cure my people. Let us give the changelings the cure. And Sisko said no. And he said no with the authority of Starfleet. This was coming from the brass, from the top. From Starfleet Command was saying, no, we will not give this cure to the changelings. Now, and so Odo had to go on a Defiant to the Cardassian homeworld, and with Sisko's permission, he beamed down to the planet, and he gave the changeling leader the cure. So she's actually correct. Starfleet said no to giving the changelings the cure. It was Odo who actually took it upon himself to give the changelings the cure. Now, Bashir did, get the cure himself, but he only gave it to Odo. He didn't give it to the changelings. That was Odo himself who did it. So, what Vatic is saying is, because she said he stole it, but Odo didn't really steal it. Bashir stole it and gave it to him. So she is a bit off. And Odo did go against Starfleet by giving the female changeling the cure, but Starfleet didn't care. It seemed like Starfleet was okay with this because it ended the war, because it stopped the genocide of all the Cardassians and all the other ships that would have died had the Dominion kept fighting to the bitter end. And so they were okay with them giving the cure at that stage because it meant the war would be over. So the issues are way more complex than either Picard or Vatic describe it. But I think, which is interesting because they all have their perspectives, but I think the thing that gnaws at me, that bothers me, is that they don't get the fact that Section 31 is its own autonomous organization correct, because that's an important factor in all this. At least I believe it to be, because they keep saying, well, Starfleet came up with the cure, with the disease. No, they did not. It was a autonomous organization, which Starfleet turned a blind eye to be fair. And once Starfleet discovered what this autonomous organization did, they did nothing to stop it, i.e. they didn't give the cure to the changelings when they could have. So they are complicit in this virus, but they didn't do it themselves, which is what Picard and Terrestrial keep saying they're wrong. But I think because it seems like this show is changing the canon to make it so that Section 31 was a part of Starfleet, which directly goes against the complexities that Deep Space Nine set up. And so that is bothering me. But anyway, yes, so that's my deep nerdy hat on. And also, I hope they do mention, Odo and bring him up somehow, because it's very important to all this. And but also I like the parallels to Vatic and Odo, because Odo was very resentful for the scientists who studied him, and that scientist was a bit cruel, but also well-intentioned, and also always looked at Odo more as like a son figure, and wished Odo well. Whereas Vatic, her scientists that were studying her were completely malevolent, or had completely bad intentions, and so she would turn out to be a lot more fucked up. And I like it. So that's why I'm a lot more okay with this character now than I used to be. So last week when I said I doubt that they would develop her wrong, or develop her more. I was wrong, and I'm glad to admit that I was. I'm glad that I was. But anyway, so now let me get to what really bothered me about this episode. So this is a trope that a lot of sci-fi or action shows do that I'm really not okay with, and that is when our heroes come up with a plan to stop the villain, and that plan sucks and backfires badly, and the villain takes over and wins too easily, which is what I thought happened in this, because I was really excited for this episode at the start when Picard and Crusher is like, oh, we have a plan. I was like, oh fuck, they're gonna get Vadic, and I saw that they were trapping her by making her think that the Titan A was destroyed, and they trapped her on the ship and they used force fields, and I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. They're enacting this plan. But then they didn't fucking do anything with it. Their plan actually ended up sucking, despite lore. Just throwing him aside, I'll get to him later. Even if you throw him out of the equation, their plan sucked. Because they didn't actually, what were they going to do? They tried to interrogate Vadic, and she didn't give anything away, which, of course, she wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't take a fucking genius to know that. And so Picard and Crusher were like, oh, struggling with the morality of simply killing her. I'm like, that's it? There's not more to this plan than just that? Your plan sucks! And then it backfires so spectacularly that she takes over the fucking ship and is sitting in the command chair. I hated that. I hated it so much. That bothered the fuck out of me. Now, I do know that it's a plot contrivance that they wrote the plot this way because they wanted to get to a certain point of her taking over the ship so that something could happen in the following week that they're going to do. It's going to set up this story. But I hate it when that happens. I hate when the villains take over the ship too easily. And it was too easy. It was way too easy how they took over the ship, how they overpowered Shaw and his security crews and was able to get and take over the bridge. It was too fucking easy. And I'm not even talking about lore yet. It has nothing to do with him. It was too easy, and I fucking hate it. That is the biggest issue I had with this episode overall. Now let's talk about lore. He was there for plot contrivance. It's to help Vadic, to give her an excuse to take over the ship, to give them an excuse for their terrible plan to fail, which was... And now, here's the thing. Part of why I love the characters of Picard and what I really liked about Next Generation is how clever and how witty he was. One of my favorite episodes is The Survivors, because there's this huge mystery, and Picard is you can see him 2 steps ahead of Riker and the rest of the crew, and he's unraveling this mystery in the head, and he's playing this game of chess and and there's a lot of other episodes too like that where he's thinking 3-dimensionally. He's 2 steps ahead, and he's outwits his opponents. That's what I love about Picard, and that's what I wanted to see here. But instead, we got this stupid, terrible piece of shit plan, which sucks. And all he was gonna do is kill her. What's that gonna get you? I wanted more out of Picard than this, and to see them lose so horribly, that's not what I want from Picard. It's not, and so I'm really disappointed. But anyway, lore. Yeah, I don't care about this plot. This whole thing about lore taking over Data seemed really contrived and out of nowhere, and I wish they took Data in a different direction, but they did this for plot convenience because they needed another villain. And Lore's reasoning, they try to, someone pointed out how he's just acting like a 2-dimensional villain. It's oh, blah, blah, blah. And he came up with all these BS excuses of why he's not 2-dimensional, which I don't buy. And then he just, says the friend of my enemy is my friend, or enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's his reason for helping the changelings. Why is Starfleet your enemy? Why are the changelings? I don't know. It's the whole thing with lore was just there for plot contrivance so that they could give Vadic the chance to win. But I still think she shouldn't have been able to win. Yeah. So, and the whole thing with, Sydney and Jack being trapped in the force field, and then Geordi desperately trying to save them, but Laura was stopping them. Like, I didn't like it. I don't think any of that worked either. The one thing I did like about the storyline is Geordi's like confession to Data, trying to get Data to come out. I did like that, and I did like we finally got this Geordi's reaction to Data's death, which is something that the franchise hasn't talked on. It hasn't tackled yet, because Nemesis and Picard Season 1 were all focused on Picard's reaction to Data's death, and we didn't see Geordi, who was Data's best friend, and I love his confession about how how he changed his life, and the real emotion behind it I totally bought. So that was the one part of that scene. That's the whole sequence I did really like. But other than that, wasn't a fan. And so what is the deal with Riker, by the way? They were setting up for this 24 storyline, which I was really, really dreading, so I'd actually be okay if they didn't do it, where they used Troy to blackmail Riker and to get him to do what they wanted him to do. But that never happened. Is he still on the strike? Because the strike's right there. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. And I didn't even notice that Worf and Raffi weren't in this episode until someone pointed out in a review. I'm like, oh yeah, what the fuck happened to Worf and Raffi? Did they go off on their own mission? I don't remember that. I don't know. But anyway, it was a bit disappointing they weren't in this episode. But we'll see. We got 3 episodes left. We'll see where they go. I think they do need to make some progress. This is still a decent season. Even if they maintain this level of quality, it will still be a decent season, but certainly not this masterpiece all these other people are talking about. But we'll see. Maybe it will get better. So, my rating for Dominion out of 10. I'm going to give this episode... Oh, God, I'm stuck between a 6 and a 7. I'm actually going to give it the benefit of the doubt and give this a 7. Very good. And one of the main reasons why I'll give it a 7, not a 6, is because I gave last week's episode a 6, and this is clearly better than last week's episode. But I just have the issues with the way Vadic was so easily able to take over the ship, and the whole lore subplot really bothered me. And what their Section 31, yeah, that bothers me. It makes an important distinction that they were autonomous. Anyway, but yeah, I did like it overall. It was suspenseful. I did love Geordi's sort of confession to Data. I think that was very cathartic. And I did like Picard and Crusher struggling with the morality. I think it could have been handled better. I want to hear more about this plan Crusher had to create a virus. And it's funny because they immediately made comparisons to the virus Section 31 created for the Changelings, but I was actually thinking more of the virus that Dr. Crusher came up with to wipe out the Borg back in the episode I, Borg. In fact, I thought they were going to bring that up when Picard's like, oh, it's kind of like, and I thought he was going to say kind of like the one they did with the Borg and Hugh, but no, they brought up the Changelings because it's more relevant to this, I guess. But it does, I had that comparison come up in my mind. And maybe if they do get to the fucking point next week with Jack Crusher, maybe it will, in retrospect, justify this episode more and make me think more of it. But we'll see. So that is it for my review of Picard Season 3, Episode 7. She'll be back next week and every week thereafter to continue covering Picard, so be sure to check out my channel for that. Also check out my channel as I cover Star Trek, the original series, 1 episode at a time, and also do many other videos on many other shows as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.